So many people ask me, how do you get into comics? It's a very loaded question because the common answer is always associated with the big two, or anything adjacent to it. And while I like these characters and their stories, even something as simple as a new #1 or a reimagined take on a pre-existing property requires some kind of homework in advance. And if you're presenting to a casual reader who doesn't really know the difference between Marvel, DC, and whatever else is out there, it's a bit of an uphill battle. Besides, comics are more than just superheroes, especially in the West, which people tend to forget. It's an entire medium of storytelling. So, here's 10 of my favorites from the past however many years. Some of these have been made into shorts on my channel, but I feel like they deserve more spotlight than I've given them. Here are the rules though. I will have stuff that's cape adjacent because I know my audience, but don't be surprised if your favorite indie darling isn't on here. I haven't read everything. I'm also going to be subdividing these into not so stringent categories, so you can jump around the video as you see fit. So, without further ado, here are 10 comics other than superheroes. Kill or Be Killed by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. I feel like so many people want superhero comics to be more grounded and self-serious, and I think this comic is the perfect reaction to that. In a world where fascism is on the rise and mental health is at an all-time low, Kill or Be Killed still has a place in the modern comic lexicon just as much as it did in 2016. It's about Dylan, a grad school student who's in a non-committal love triangle with his roommate's girlfriend, but after overhearing said roommate and girlfriend talking about how pathetic he is, Dylan tries to kill himself. He survives, albeit miraculously, but now has a new problem: the demon. Something that his late father, a mentally unwell artist, drew about extensively. The demon says that Dylan is on a running clock, that he has to kill one bad person every month to stay alive. Dylan thinks this is all a hallucination, because of course he does, but after slowly getting sicker after getting out of the hospital, he decides to buy into the delusion. With that, he gets his first kill, and his war against both the world and himself begins. Kill or Be Killed is one of those books where the whole fun is the mystery. You don't know where things are going, and the framing device is constantly called into question. The art by Sean Phillips paints a perfect, brutal, melancholy picture of modern Americana, with the quiet rage of that country acting as the through line. Make no mistake, Kill or Be Killed has a message. It's just up to you to interpret what the demon is saying. The Luther Strode series by Justin Jordan and Tradd Moore. I called this facetiously American Fist of the North Star when it's really more than that. It's a deconstruction of the typical superhero tropes you know and love in its first book, actively engaging in hyperviolence with little meditation on it, before steamrolling into non-stop action and anime homage as a means of turning page to page. The story is about, you guessed it, Luther Strode, a bullied kid who gets a book called The Hercules Method in the mail. Basically a workout manual that's been passed down through the generations, one that gives Luthor a talent for killing like all the murderers who came before him. While his newfound strength is cool, even a bit scary at points, it's the creator of the Hercules Method that Luthor is worried about. Like Kill or Be Killed, it's a book about morality, but less about the mental health of the person behind it, and more focused on the spectacle. It goes from a YA horror book to a hard-nosed action series to a seinen-influenced battle manga, all in 3 volumes. I can't say or show more without spoiling everything, but the selling point is Tradd Moore's art. How he not only draws lines, but muscles is astounding, and the posing is just perfect for some of these action scenes. Get ripped, get bent, read Luther Strode. The Wicked and the Divine by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McElvey. The third Image book of the list, and it's complete trash. I love it so much though. The mythology is this. Every 100 years since the dawn of man, the gods of myth have been reincarnated into 12 select humans. Each will grow up becoming influential figures, live lives that so many people want to live, and then die horribly. All for a sick prophecy that one of the gods wishes to see fulfilled. We follow Laura, a British teen in the 2010s who's a big fan of the current gods and is given a chance to get to know them better by Lucifer. And Laura is off to the races, discovering age-old conspiracies, interpersonal romantic squabbles, and gods unseen by the public eye who have their own goals in the reincarnation cycle. Maybe discovering the magic hidden inside her all along. This is a YA fantasy series, and it's as YA as you can get. McElvey's art style is very appealing here. Everyone looks smooth and modern. His aesthetic for the hyper-realistic meshing well with the constant use of neon and particle effects. It's a bit longer than the prior 2 series, but I ate this shit up as a kid. It tried and sometimes failed at social commentary on celebrity and pop culture, but as a time capsule of the 2010s, it embodies everything good and bad Image was doing at the time. It's a roller coaster I cannot recommend enough, especially to queer readers. Step into the veil, my friends, and see the divine. Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. Now we're getting into the weeds. Fun Home is one of my favorite comics ever made. It changed my brain chemistry when I found it around late middle school, and it's never left my head since. It's an auto-bio comic, which you'll find a few of here, about Bechdel's upbringing in a Midwest family-owned funeral home under the control of her father, a closeted homosexual in the American 70s. While it jumps back and forth, the inciting incident is Bechdel's father mysteriously dying after being hit by a Mack truck. The mystery being whether it was really an accident or a sad old man killing himself because of the lie he's lived. It explores not only Bechdel's relationship with her father, but how his queerness influenced hers as the only gay kid in the family. Bechdel is smart as a whip in these pages. I laugh out loud to some segments of hers and then immediately get depressed when I turn the page. She's a master of her craft, and her story is so enlightening and harrowing at times, it makes sense why this became a Broadway musical. The melodrama is just perfect, even if the source material isn't as dramatic, just moody and self-questioning. If you're willing to give queer comics a chance, even if you're straight, I highly recommend Fun Home to pretty much everyone. You won't regret a thing. The Dropsy Avenue Trilogy by Will Eisner. This means a contract with God and other tenement stories, a life force, and the titular Dropsy Avenue. Will Eisner is the cartoonist's cartoonist. He single-handedly carried the superhero genre on his back with the spirit, and while not the first person to do a graphic novel, he was the one who popularized it. It's about the Jewish-American experience in 1930s New York, following many different characters from the same neighborhood, some of which even overlap in terms of stories. Some of these stories can be very funny, with tragic ends, or heartwarming tales about the life of Jews back then, but most importantly, it's about tradition and the forms it takes over the years. I have found myself screaming, "No! You cannot do this to me! We had a contract!" in private for years now, and it's all thanks to Eisner's imagery. The way he fuses prose with his sketches is, yes, old-fashioned, but not the kind of old-fashioned you'd facetiously say should be in a museum. This is the gold standard of comic storytelling, even if it's inherently niche. It not only says everything about the culture Eisner grew up in, but how his people survived and persevered in spite of cultures clashing and the city being unforgiving. It came out in the 1970s, and it still holds up. If you're interested, do yourself a favor and read some Will Eisner. Essex County by Jeff Lemire. This comic made me cry, hands down, without fail. It's the book that put Lemire on the map as not only a potential talent for the Big Two, which would later prove to be right, but as an independent cartoonist who specialized in low-stakes, highly personal stories. Essex County, like the Dropsy Avenue trilogy before it, is a bit of an anthology with consistent characters between them. The only difference is that Dropsy is in 1930s New York, while Essex County is in bumfuck nowhere in Canada during the 1980s. There's a simplicity to Lemire's art that can fool you at first, but the detailing his portraits and general backgrounds hold surprise me at moments. The depth of something that looks as simple as Lemire's art is the whole point of it. Looking for beauty in the simple things around you instead of within. Family is a big theme in this book, and if you aren't a fan of the typical platitudes about family that big Hollywood pushes, you may find this book saccharine. But I cannot recommend this book enough, or just Lemire's work in general. He's my favorite writer in comics despite his faults on ongoing series or bare basic prose, and Essex County is why. Ducks, 2 Years in the Oil Sands by Kate Beaton. This is a modern classic. Another auto-bio comic, sure, but it encapsulates so much. Not just experiences in my own life or the lives of other people I care about, but also about the state of the world and how we choose to survive in it. It's about Beaton's experience working on oil rigs for 2 years out of art school, trying to pay off student debt by being in one of the most isolating, dangerous, socially draining, and potentially violating jobs you could ever take up. At least it's good money. Beaton's art style is disarming at a glance. Soft facial expressions, limited use of color, bursts of comedy that is more endearing than laugh-out-loud funny, and then you get the serious moments. And it all hits like a truck. This is a book I'd recommend my mom more than anyone else. The oil sands show to be a great microcosm of the human experience, and Beaton dives into the reasons why the people who work at these rigs act the way they do. Just a beautiful work about the importance of human connection, even if mired in constant tragedy. God bless you, Canadian cartoonists.
Oh, baby, a triple!
Plastic by Doug Wagner, Daniel Hilliard, and Laura Martin. Plastic is about a serial killer who's in love with a sex doll, and that sex doll gets kidnapped by the local mob, resulting in that serial killer hunting down the mob for his inanimate lover. Shenanigans ensue. It's as basic as it sounds. Wagner has this love of writing serial killers that's fed into every major work he's done since Plastic. And I mean, in a world where true crime shows are still topping streaming charts, I can see why. At least this killer is a happy, deranged weirdo who likes helping people. It's helped a lot by the visuals done by Daniel Hilliard, who clearly takes glee in the framing and general motion of these murders. Laura Martin's colors really make the blood and small moments pop when they could have been flat or grayscale. It's not a work I can say a whole lot about, because like Luther Strode, it's really more about the ride than the destination. It does have something to say, it's just less profound than something like Kill or Be Killed. There's a prequel comic called Plastic, Blood, and Dolls if you're truly hungry for more blood-covered donuts. Otherwise, I think I've said all there needs to be said about Plastic. Go crazy, folks. Day Tripper by Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Day Tripper. It's probably some of the best material Vertigo put out before being shuttered, reopened, shuttered again, replaced with Black Label, and then finally reopened. It takes place in Sao Paulo, and it really takes advantage of the setting to tell some unique stories surrounding our lead, Brás, an obituary writer who dreams of being a novelist, but at the end of every issue, dies in increasingly profound ways, only to be perfectly fine in the next issue and the next portion of his life. It's a truly masterful work, whose twists build to a sense of emotional catharsis. Everyone in Brás's life is a major player at one point, and the later into Brás's life we get, we see the ramifications of what came before. It's cleanly delivered despite the obtuse storytelling method, and its core ideas about life and death are certainly worth discussing separate to this recommendation. The art is gorgeous, the writing is sharp, and it still holds up over 15 years later compared to other Drek Vertigo has put out since. Read Day Tripper, it will change your life. Beautiful Darkness by Fabian Vellman and Kataskot. I'm ending on a spooky, scary comic since I'm writing this in October, and I think this is one I can say, without fail, got me. It's Lord of the Flies with fairies, taking the European mythology of fae and forest folk and returning it to its dark roots from the perspective of a community who needs to find a new home. Kills in this book aren't the most gory like, say, Plastic was, but they are visceral and brutal and painful all the same. Vellman and Pomepieu really know how to make the fairies feel like not just stock characters, but kids playing at something bigger. A lack of understanding about the world around them due to maintaining the world they know. Its ending is so silent and so serene, it still haunts me after reading. And if that was the idea, mission accomplished. I'd read this one with the lights off. The colors are so joyful and the art is so alluring, but it lulls you into a false sense of security, then smacks you with a frying pan. So if you're looking for a cottagecore horror book that you can trick your artsy friends into reading, especially if they like Euro comics, Beautiful Darkness might be your best bet. In conclusion, this is a sampler of what kinds of comics are out there beyond the typical cape slop I enjoy so much. I hope you at least give one of these books a chance, because you might learn something about what you look for in comics as a result. Otherwise, it's back to the cape mines for this comic book YouTuber. And thank you for watching.